Hi friends, David here from Learn Christmas Lighting, and today I'm pumped, I'm excited. I'm going to show you one thing I'm adding to my house this year that I meant to add to my house last year, and that is window frames. And in this video, I want to walk through how I chose my product to do my window frames, what the process was to do that, some negatives I've had in the past with the way I did them on my old house, and how you can check these out and work with a window frame like this as well. Let's dive in. One of the hallmark, parts of a Christmas light show, one of the things that pretty much every light show has is window frames, right? You've got windows on your house. Apparently mine are huge. That's what I've learned. And you need to put around them, right? I'll do it horizontal, a frame, right? Because, it just makes sense. Just like doing a roof line, just like doing verticals on your columns, framing out your windows often makes sense in the context of a Christmas light show. It looks good, right? And at my old house, I had built my window frames with the Boscoyo Studio products, the Chroma, oh my goodness, the regular pixel strip and the Chroma, I'm losing it here. The stiff one, the pixel strip, but stiff for horizontal. And it's totally escaping my mind right now. And it was a fairly good system, but it did have its negatives. The biggest being that it really didn't do corners well, right? Like you could do those straight segments, but within the product itself, mounting it to EMT or PVC pipe, it just didn't do corners well. That was the one negative, right? The positive is, of course, especially with the flexible vertical strips, they just, you can roll them up, stick them in a bucket or a box, and they get really small. So when we moved to this house, I said, hey, I want to figure out what the best solution is on the market to do my window frames, to make my life the easiest, and to make it look good. Those were really my two criteria going into it. And so I settled on the Gilbert Engineering HD pixel strip frames, and I apologize if I'm butchering the name there. And what the Gilbert Engineering is it is coroplast. It's corrugated plastic, similar to many of the models you may use, and it comes in a variety of packs where you basically get a bunch of straight pieces of this, and then, and I've already partially assembled it, you get corner pieces, little tiny corner pieces, and I believe also connector pieces. So you get a whole pile of this in a box and you say to yourself, how do I put this together? And what I ran into as I started building my first frames, like I've got, a couple of them here that I've shown you, right? Completely built frames is, and gosh, my windows at this house are big. I don't think I realized how big they were. But you start putting it together and you go, how does this stuff work? And I really couldn't find any guides on it. So through a little trial and error, I want to walk you through that process here, show you what I did so that you can do the same in your display. Sound good? All right. So the first thing you're going to do is grab your stuff, right? So what I did is I basically measured out my windows first, and I started cutting pieces of strip. I went ahead, and this is really key, I think. I built one window frame entirely first. Why? Because I realized, as I got into it, that, hey, these window frames, I was going to need one full uncut piece of the trim, right? Then I was going to need to join it together somehow and add a shorter segment. On the horizontal, I was going to need to cut one of those long segments down into the width of the horizontal. Now, for measuring sake, I did go out to my windows, and it took a little bit of trial and error to kind of find that good measurement where it would be an exact inch to cut between different pixels on the trim, right? And it would also, be wide enough that it could kind of cover the window, but would I go in on the window or would I go just outside of the window? Finding that exact medium with the windows, with the trim around the windows exactly, took a little bit of effort, and it's really kind of an artistic decision, right? Deciding, okay, what do you do there? Do you cover the window a little bit, the very edge, and kind of outline the edge of the window? Do you go all the way outside of the window completely to the brick, in my case, the siding, whatever, and mount it there around the window, right? In my case, I chose to kind of go as wide as I could around the inside of the window. Then you had dimensions. Then you can start to cut it. So I started cutting my pieces, and for joining, to show you guys that, I went ahead, and as you can probably see here, I simply grabbed some smaller pieces that they come with these to be able to join. I believe they come with these to join it together. It's a little foggy. And I basically would then drill through with a small drill bit that matches the size of the pre-made holes. I would drill all the way through to the piece I was matching it to. That way, I'm able to create this connector. We'll bring it up here, actually. Really create this connector. Hope this comes through nice. Where, you know, I was able to securely overlap a little, like a full couple inches, so that, you know, they would be totally connected together, and it would feel stiff, it would feel rigid. And so on the corners then, a very similar process, where they give you a corner piece, okay? So they give you an L-shaped corner piece. So you've got your L shape, okay? Just gonna set this down. And then I went ahead, and they also give you this square corner. So I put the square corner on the actual corner of the corner, zip tie that in with 2 zip ties. I used 8-inch zip ties for rigidity. Then I go ahead, and you'd be able at that point to connect your sides with it. So like this is a complete uncut piece. I would go, and that would be able to connect in right there. See, just like that, it lines right up into that corner, okay? Lines up with the holes, or anywhere that I cut the strip where there weren't holes. Again, tiny drill bit, quick, line it up, use an existing one with factory holes as the template to drill on through so that you could zip tie it together. In terms of the size of my windows, you know, these are big windows. I didn't realize, again, how big they were. And so, I mean, this is like 5.5 feet tall, right? And then probably 4 feet wide. I think I'm pushing it a little bit on height, honestly. Maybe I should have gone a little bit more with my overlap. Maybe not. The problem with the overlap is it is a little bit harder to push the pixels in the segments that do overlap. So in terms of assembly, it really is just as simple as kind of, you know, building out your first window frame like I did, and then copying it, right? So then I'm going to walk over to that, and I'm going to go, hey, first I need on each side a long piece like that, and then I need a short piece like this, right? And I'll put them end to end. I'll find my connector piece, put that on the back side, make sure that as I'm putting pieces together, all of the back sides match, right? None of the backs end up forward. Always match your back side. And then, you know, around to the corners, around to the other side, etc. And the end result then is you've got these window frames, as I've showed you, as I've carried a few times, and carried on screen a couple times, that is ready to accept your pixels, okay? Next step, in terms of pushing your pixels in window frames, and this is just general pixel window frame knowledge, there really isn't any wrong way to do it. So you've got a rectangle, and in one of the corners, you're gonna have pixel data coming in, and then you're gonna have the end of your pixel string, and it's always gonna end up in the same corner because that's how a window frame works, right? It's an entire rectangle. It's basically 360 degrees, and when you go all the way around it, you end up where you begin. Because of that, you really just kind of have to care about consistency if it matters in your context. It might or it might not, right? And then it really is as simple as pushing those pixels in, you know, maybe re-securing anything if it doesn't feel tight, tightening up those zip ties, etc. And then boom, you've got window frames ready for your show. Now, of course, I did this video in about 10 minutes. It does take longer in real life. It takes a whole lot longer. But when you do it and you build a prop well for your Christmas light show, if this is, you know, something you're new to, it's something that you're going to have for the life of your display if you maintain it well. So, yes, it takes time, but it's worth it. And like that, boom. I wasn't going to pop in here, but I wanted to after I pushed all my pixels and just kind of cover a couple last details that I think are kind of key. The first is, you know, I went into this and I admit I am sometimes a poor planner, right? And so I went into this going, oh, I'll probably space them at 2-inch with my pixels, yada, yada. Anywho, it's very important if you're not going to do 1-inch spacing on a window product like this that is 1-inch space, that you count, right? count out, measure, mark it on a strip, physically count it out. I'm sure there's a way to do the math, but honestly, that blows my mind. And just see, okay, if I do every other pixel in my outline, will each corner be filled? That is kind of one of the negatives. I don't know if it's really a negative, but just one of the things you got to watch out for when you're doing a full rectangle window cutout, right? When I just did horizontals, it was like, oh, if one didn't land quite in the window, I could just scooch it up, scooch it down, scooch it sideways a little bit, and be able to have a pixel in each corner at 2-inch spacing. With this, I didn't do the math. I didn't plan for that. Now I've got 1-inch spacing. I'm cool with that. But if you were intending to do a 2-inch spacing, something like that, you want to make sense out of that. Second thing, how in the world are you going to mount this thing? With the size of my windows, particularly the fact that the long strips of this material I had to extend or double up with some overlap. Because of that, it is fairly flimsy. If you didn't have extended pieces like I did, I would say it's not going to be that flimsy. Like, it's not like mine horizontally is not too flimsy. Vertically, it kind of is, right? My plan for mounting these is to go ahead and just have some screws and hang it on the screws at the top 2 corners, maybe the center. But gravity should take care of the rest. If it needs any more, if it starts to sag or anything, I don't anticipate it sagging in the middle because it is one piece, but do be aware that that can happen. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we will see you guys in the next video. And if you're brand new to Christmas lighting, then don't miss out. We've got our free guide, the 4 things I really wish I knew before I started with Christmas lighting, available over at learnchristmaslighting.com. We're going to tell you all about everything we do once you sign up for that guide so that you can begin to build a Christmas light display. Build your first and make it not a high-stress thing, but something that you love and enjoy and cherish and do for years to come. If that sounds good, grab our free guide over at learnchristmaslighting.com. Check out our academy, which we'll also email you about, but it's at learnchristmaslighting.com/academy. All that and more linked below. We'll see you guys there. Thanks.